Thanks, John. You saved the day.
Thanks, buddy.
New innovations can disrupt entire industries.
Good morning, almost.
Stock symbol JPOTF.
Good afternoon. Just about 12 o'clock. So, I got all my stuff done and not much going on today, so decided to come on. So, wait a few minutes to get started. I know everybody's working. Okay, he's trying to get better.
This country holds the best path to prosperity, and free market capitalism is worth fighting for.
Larry's keeping an eye on Fox Business. Invested in you.
I'll give it 5 minutes and then I'll go ahead and get started. A lot of people are at work.
Hi, so we're watching the closed meeting that the president is having with Colombia's president. They're talking trade and they're also talking oil. This is after a trade deal with India yesterday. So there's a lot of moving parts here as we're also watching the situation in Iran because oil is very much in play. So is peace building and nation building as well, and strengthening those relationships with some outside the U.S. while we're trying to combat those that are positioned against us. We're going to break all of this down with Josh Schaefer from Barron's, and Charlie Gasparino will be here. All starts at the top of the hour. See you then.
All right, thanks so much, Jackie. Now, San Francisco officials have uncovered secret drug and gambling dens in a downtown neighborhood known for trouble. Come back in here, Madison. What did they find?
We got a lot. Officers reportedly seized slot machines, a lot of cash, methamphetamines, firearms, and stolen merchandise. Quite the haul. This was all in 9 secret drug and gambling dens that were disguised as convenience stores. This must happened in the Tenderloin. That is one of the rougher parts of SF. The city attorney said these stores were like magnets for drug activity and jail.
All right, I'm just going to get started. Not many people knew I was coming on. And everybody's at work. So we'll just go ahead and get the news out. We'll have 2 shows again today. So the first one is the update on the lady's mother on NBC. That's 5 minutes. Well, actually, it's 7, almost 8 minutes.
And a beloved part today, family. Authorities in Arizona now saying the 84-year-old appears to be the victim of an abduction.
Overnight, Savannah posting this image on Instagram. Please pray. She went on to write, "We believe in prayer. We believe in voices raised in unison, in love, in hope. We believe in goodness. We believe in humanity. Above all, we believe in him."
She added, "Thank you for lifting your prayers with ours for our beloved mom, our dearest Nancy, a woman of deep conviction, a good and faithful servant. Raise your prayers with us and believe with us that she will be lifted by them in this very moment." She goes on to say, "We need you. Bring her home."
Oh, we have several reports this morning. We'll start with NBC's Liz Coit. She has made her way to Tucson. She is following the investigation for us. Liz, good morning to you.
Hi, Craig. Hi, Chanel. Good morning to both of you. Our hearts are with Savannah and her family right now. And there are still so many more questions than answers as the search for Nancy Guthrie goes on nearly 48 hours now. While the sheriff tells us they have received many tips from the public and community, he says they still don't have a solid lead.
This morning, authorities are urgently asking the public for help with any tips related to the disappearance of Savannah's mother, Nancy Guthrie. As the massive search continues for the 84-year-old,
I think she was abducted.
the Pima County Sheriff saying yesterday that Guthrie was taken from her home.
When you're taken from your bed and you don't want to go somewhere, that's an abduction.
The Sheriff's Department now saying he meant that figuratively and did not mean that she was literally taken from her bed. But according to the office, investigators do believe Guthrie was, quote, taken from the home against her will, which could include, quote, possible kidnapping or abduction. Overnight, the sheriff also reporting possible DNA evidence found at the crime scene.
We took some samples that we hope will have enough profile of a DNA profile that gives us some identification as to what we're looking at.
Police say Nancy Guthrie was last seen Saturday night when family members dropped her off at home where she lives alone around 9:45 p.m. The next morning, a church friend called family concerned she didn't attend Sunday service. After spending nearly an hour searching the home and property, her children called 911 around noon on Sunday. Police say Nancy Guthrie's cell phone and car were left behind, adding that she has limited mobility and needs to take medication daily or it could be fatal.
Oh, that's so cute.
Over the years, Savannah's mother has been a frequent guest on the Today Show, the two often sharing cherished memories and opening up about their special bond.
My mom and I feel like we really click as friends, too. It's just amazing what she's brought to my life.
Savannah posting overnight asking for prayers. Authorities not speculating on potential motives, saying their focus is on trying to track down the beloved mother and grandmother before it's too late.
It is a race against time, and that I hope that window hasn't closed.
And the sheriff indicated that it could be several more days until they're able to get any kind of conclusive information from those DNA samples taken from the crime scene. We also asked the sheriff about the potential possibility that Nancy Guthrie could have been targeted because of her connection to Savannah. He said that while they're not ruling anything out, that is not a main focus of their investigation. Craig.
Liz Court starting us off there in Tucson. Liz, thank you. NBC's Tom Winter covers crime and security, joins us now here in the studio. So, Tom, I mean, it's alarming that she was taken against her will from her home. Where do investigators start with something like that?
You know, certainly the fact that we now have what they've called an abduction is obviously very concerning to them. There is a process to doing this. There's a methodology to doing this. The FBI is now involved. I know we'll talk about that. They are getting some evidence, but they are pleading for the public's help. Somebody knows something about this. Somebody knows, saw something, had maybe heard something. Obviously, the person or persons that did this know about it. And so I think today there's two things. There's the investigation, but there's also the Nancy Guthrie, the humanity side of this. And if it were my family, and I'm sure the Guthries feel the same way, they say, you know what? Focus on, and I would say focus on Nancy. Get her to the hospital, get her to a fire station, get her somewhere where she can get some help because she may not have the time that investigators do or whoever did this has.
You know, we've been talking about the fact that there were items like, you know, her cell phone, car left behind. You know, what does that tell us? And also the terrain of the neighborhood. How does that impact this?
Yeah, so clearly this wasn't a robbery. And this was somebody who was, they tried to abduct this person. They get them out of the house in the middle of the night, it appears. And so because of the neighborhood, it's not tightly packed. It's within Tucson, but we're not talking about house next to house next to house. So because of the vegetation, because of the terrain, because of the way the layout of the neighborhood, according to the sheriff's office, so far they have not had a lot of luck in getting video. We were talking about yesterday morning, hopefully a neighbor would have a video of a car leaving or somebody in the area. That hasn't been too fruitful so far. So that's proving to be a real challenge.
You mentioned the FBI a few moments ago, Tom. What kind of expertise can the FBI bring to a case like this and other agencies as well?
Yeah, sure. And it's not just the FBI, but the FBI does have a lot of experience on these types of kidnapping investigations. They bring some technological resources that can be very helpful in terms of finding the person. So as far as cell phone location technology, the work they can do with that is incredible. We've seen that be used in the last several months in a number of high-profile cases. They have the ability to analyze images. They can review purchases. They can try to find out if anybody bought anything that they think that somebody might have been used in this crime. So they have some unique resources. They're also a national and international organization, so they have that reach as well.
Particularly for people in this area, in her area, how much can the public help at this time?
I think it's very clear from the sheriff's office that they need the public's help, and I think they're going to be critical. Somebody somewhere saw something. Somebody's heard about something. And you know what? It's not just people in Tucson. You could be in New York, North Dakota, California. Maybe you're on Reddit. I mean, we saw in the Brown University case, somebody posted.
So that's an update on that. I got to talk to somebody outside the door. Get back.
Without a hide. That has not happened in Washington, D.C. in decades.
That only 10% of the cases go unprosecuted. My predecessor had 60% of the cases that went unprosecuted. My prosecutors know they've got to put a case together, they've got to make it solid, and we take it.
Yeah, you guys didn't hear me talk to anybody, did you? I muted myself because I was talking to somebody. So I got a lot of intel. I got everything all done. Yeah, we're gonna have 2 more big shows. Hey, Flying, you don't want to be a mod, Flying Eagle? You're helping me a lot. Appreciate it. There's Kay's getting better. We'll see. So there's a lot going on. So yeah, that's what happened just a few minutes ago. But I want to continue. We got a lot of good stuff again. A lot of good stuff. So just tell me if you want to be a mod, I'll give you a wrench. And you can help whenever you can.
To court. We find the disruptors of violence, the disruptors and those committing the violence, and we make sure that they are the ones who are accountable. And you bring a gun into the district, you mark my words, you're going to jail. I don't care if you have a license in another district, and I don't care if you're a law-abiding gun owner somewhere else. You bring a gun into this district, count on going to jail, and hope you get the gun back. And that makes all the difference.
Yeah, it's amazing how accountability works. You know, when people think that if they actually get arrested, they might have to do time and they might be taken off the street. It sort of puts a little different message into people's heads. Let's take a look at these charts, and they are impressive. This is violent crimes by the month in D.C. And you can see on this chart, we put on where the deployment of the National Guard kicked in August, and this is homicides by the month in D.C. And there again, we put in where the deployment of the National Guard happened. And of course, you were in charge of this district around that time and before that time as well.
Yeah.
Here's Mayor Muriel Bowser, Mayor Muriel Bowser. She didn't want this initially, and this is back in August of 2025. Watch this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the National Guard should be used for law enforcement. And I think calling men and women from their homes and their jobs and their families, they have to be used on their, on mission specific items that benefit the nation. I don't think you have an armed militia in the nation's capital.
So I know that you have talked about having a good relationship with the mayor. Does she feel differently about this now?
I think the mayor does feel differently about it. And yes, I do have a good relationship with the mayor. Look, this is about making sure that it's a partnership. It's the only way we're going to solve the problem. And we are solving this problem. We are solving more homicide cases than we ever have in the district. And the mayor now is seeing what this combined resource allocation is doing. We've got all kinds of benefits with technology and new databases and plugging in all kinds of tracking that she didn't have before. And, the mayor has always believed in making the city safe. What the president has done and what the Attorney General Pam Bondi has done is they've created the equation and the pieces to the equation that get us to the point where we get a good resolution. My office is working every day on unsolved homicide cases. We've got more solved homicides than we've had in decades in the district. It's all about focus, partnership, and being serious and making sure that you don't say, well, this is a little different. It's good enough right now. It's still not good enough, Martha. It's never good enough unless there's no crime.
You're a very hard worker, and you don't mess around. And I think that's why you're seeing great results. We have to go, but I just want to mention that I know you spoke with Andrew Wolf's parents, and this is one of the National Guard members who was gravely injured and is doing well. And we pray for him. His mother's incredible. Real quick, Janine.
If I can say something about him, I know you're short on time. Please. Great medical care, a supportive family, determination on his part. He's going to be 25 on February 10th. This kid is a hero. Thank God he's a miracle. The family is feeling great. Keep praying for him. He needs your prayers. He's going to be okay.
God bless him. Janine Pirro, thank you. As always, it's
the worst state to live in right now is.
Okay, got that one.
On the ground, you were in Minnesota. Tell us what you're seeing and what's coming.
Yeah, Sean, I've been in Minnesota 4 days total, working on obtaining this indictment. We arrested 2 more, and I made it very clear, if you protested, if you rioted in that church, we are going to find you and we're going to arrest you. Don Lemon and 8 others have now been charged in a single indictment because you cannot attack, and that's what it was. It was an attack style on a house of worship. You can't do it. It was a Sunday morning. There were parishioners, there were families, there were grandparents, there were people with canes, there were children upstairs in the nursery. They bombarded in, and as Don Lemon put it in his own words, they were on their way to a resistance at that church. And that's exactly what they did. They had a resistance operation. They barged in that church. There were originally about 400 people in that church. The video you're now showing, a lot of them ran out the back door. The lucky ones were able to get out. These people will say these parishioners thought they were going to get shot. One of the people with Don Lemon screamed, quote, "This ain't a house of worship. This is the house of the devil." There were children crying. There were parents blocked from getting upstairs to take their children out of Sunday school. A group of women ran out a side door. Multiple people fell on the ice. One woman severely damaged her arm, had to go to the hospital. Don Lemon blocked someone from going out that door. They were screaming at parishioners. It was horrible. No American, we don't live in a third world country. We live in the United States of America, and you will have the right to worship safely and freely in a house of worship, whether it's a church, a synagogue, a temple, a mosque, any house of worship in this country, you will be safe. And these people committed a crime under the FACE Act, and they will be held accountable. 9 of them have been charged, and you will not do this in our country. We're coming after you if you do this, because we are going to protect houses of worship. This is not what our country was founded on.
It's amazing because the left love the FACE Act. There's a couple of provisions in it. One allows access for women to go to abortion clinics. And then the provision you're referring to, provision 247 and 248, I would argue are applicable. And it's very clear. Now, I look at the tape, and you don't have to weigh in on it because you're involved in the case. I see Don Lemon, okay, giving out donuts, coffee, commentary that seems incredibly supportive. He's entitled to his opinion. Abby Lowe's a good attorney. Will that have any weight with the judge that he really used to be, on CNN, for example?
Well, he was fired from CNN. And anyone who has a camera then would have a license to attack a church. What he was doing originally, they met in a parking lot about 2 miles away while people were filing into this church service. They were caravanning to this church to perform an attack-style infiltration of a church service on a Sunday morning. They came in through all doors. All the people we've charged did this. All of them. That's him in the church confronting the pastor. The pastor will say he was scared. His parishioners were scared. We just know there was a church shooting recently in Minneapolis. They did not know. You can't do this, Sean, in this country. Yes, it's a violation of the law to do what they did, and we will hold you accountable. So anyone with a camera then would be allowed, under his theory, to come in and attack a church like that and riot a church on a Sunday morning or on a Saturday if it's a synagogue. You can't do that in this country. It's illegal. We're going to prosecute you, and you will be held accountable. Doesn't matter if you're a failed journalist with a camera in your hand. You can't do it.
All right, well said. I think we got rid of any ambiguity that may exist in some people's minds. Attorney General Pam Bondi, thank you. Now, sticking with, hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.
Every day.
You will not get it anywhere else.
Every day and everywhere. Hey, I got the next clip. Dan Bongino.
Private Sector Dan, welcome back. It's good to see you.
Good to be here.
Did you ever think you would see civilians setting up checkpoints in major metropolitan areas for ICE?
Yeah, man. I mean, after the chop zone, this is like SOP for the, lunatic left. But, I'm watching this clip here, sitting here, going through all this with you. And it's like, who does PR for these people? Like the new Coke folks? Like who says to them, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's piss off a bunch of people going to work early in the morning when everyone's in a great mood, of course, pre-coffee or whatever it may be. And let's stop them in a green vest and tell them we're running plate checks for ICE folks who are getting rapists and murderers out of the city just to make sure we keep them in here. Like who's the moron who was like, hey, it's not going to tick off veterans at all if we go and do an Iwo Jima reenactment because we want rapists and murderers to say, like, who did? Folks, listen, I'm not here to give the left advice, but fire these idiots and arrest them for political malpractice immediately.
You remind me of the people that were fighting for climate change that would just lie down and play dead in the middle of the freeway. I mean, they're inches from getting their heads squished.
I got to answer this call.
defense attorney and Fox News contributor Don.
Sorry about that, you guys. I had two important calls that just came in. I'll replay that. Hopefully I'm okay now. Got busy all of a sudden. But I'll replay this. The market is minus 300.
Good to be here.
Did you ever think you would see civilians setting up checkpoints
Sorry,
in major
Dave.
metropolitan areas for ICE?
I replayed it there.
Yeah, man. I mean, after the chop zone, this is like SOP for the, lunatic left. But, I'm watching this clip here, sitting here going through all this with you. And it's like, who does PR for these people? Like the new Coke folks? Like who says to them, hey, I've got a great idea. Let's piss off a bunch of people going to work early in the morning when everyone's in a great mood, of course, pre-coffee or whatever it may be. And let's stop them in a green vest and tell them we're running plate checks for ICE folks who are getting rapists and murderers out of the city just to make sure we keep them in here. Like who's the moron who was like, hey, it's not going to tick off veterans at all if we go and do an Iwo Jima reenactment because we want rapists and murderers to say, like, who did, folks, listen, I'm not here to give the left advice, but fire these idiots and arrest them for political malpractice immediately.
You remind me of the people that were fighting for climate change that would just lie down and play dead in the middle of the freeway. I mean, they're inches from getting their heads squished by a pickup truck.
Jesse, they got to bring, what's her name? The Greta lady in next, the young gal, like bring her in. Like that's the only, she, in between flotillas out there in Gaza, whatever, like bring her in. She's really popular too. I mean, what is going on with these people? But hey, listen, on a very serious note though, I listened to you play that clip of President Trump. I was there very early on in March when this whole thing went down. The president was totally transformative on this immigration issue. He used Title VIII like no one had done it in American history before. It's quick story here. It was me, Pam, Cash, and Todd, and we were meeting over in the JCC, and they were like, listen, man, we're arresting a lot of these people in the country illegally. We're trying to flip them. We're spending all this money on, United States attorneys, proffer sessions, all this stuff, and they come up later, they don't have anything. Let's just give these people, I mean, again, I'm exaggerating a little bit, give them 5 minutes to flip, produce some information on a criminal enterprise. If you don't get you fill in the blank, out of the damn country. The president was like, I want him out. Like, I'm not wasting a year on a proffer session feeding this guy in a U.S. prison if he doesn't even belong in the damn country. That, you may say, well, that sounds pretty simple. The president was the first one to think about that.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's why the crime rate is the lowest in U.S. history.
Dan, they're not just feeding them. I mean, Gavin Newsom's giving illegal alien sex changes in prison. I mean, it's just pouring money at these people like it's crazy. Have you heard about this new move Noam's doing? They're going to put every ICE agent gets a body cam. I mean, I love that.
I'll bet they do too. I made this argument on my show before I left to go over to the FBI that the body cam has been the best weapon for good cops out there. And initially there's always a little bit of this, a big brother spying on me kind of thing with anyone. No one wants to be said. People don't like those mouse detectors in work, juggle the mouse, whatever. However, this thing has saved a lot of good cops from. I got friends up in New York in the NYPD still. They have that civilian complaint review board. In the past, people used to say, he said this or he called me that. Now you just go right to the video, boom, done, over. It's more protection for the police than I think it is for the population.
Yeah, the Democrats.
I think it's a great move.
They walked right into that one. That will light them up in more ways than one. Dan Bongino, great to have you back. I'm sure you don't miss the Epstein files or anything like that. I'm sure you're glad you're talking about what you want to talk about.
It's a busy year, my man.
I'm sure.
It's a busy year.
Great to get back in on the action. Good to see you as always. Thank you for your service.
Okay, Dan with Mark or Waters there. This is a 2-minute clip.
They have this kind of blockade here where they're stopping some vehicles. Actually, Eric, if you could point down there, they're actually stopping this vehicle
and they check the out-of-state plates just to see if they're ICE. And what's thing is, just moments ago, down there, we have an Uber driver. He's from Somalia. He's clearly not ICE, and they said that in their database that vehicle was popping up as an ICE vehicle. So we were questioning them about this database that they're using. Obviously, there's some type of network here, communication. According to them, local law enforcement hasn't even came in and stopped. So Eric, just gotta shoot some of this and check it out. They're on the phone. I guess they were checking the license plate. We heard in their walkie-talkie that the license plate that they ran is not ICE, but you see they're on their walkie-talkie to talking. We want to find out a little bit more about the database, but they don't want to answer our questions. So this is the situation right now here in South Minneapolis. It's called like a blockade. Hey, how you doing? Just talk to me a little bit about this database, because we just ran our Somali Uber driver's license plate. I mean, you guys did run his license plate without his permission. Just talking about the database a little bit, you know? So this is the scene right now in South Minneapolis, 32nd Street here on Cedar Avenue. You can't saw me, dude.
Get in the fucking car.
You can't.
Get in the fucking car, man.
Go away. So they're assaulting me and my photojournalist. Got it all on video. They actually tried to steal my phone, but unsuccessful. And you're gonna get blasted all over the internet, buddy.
Okay. A protester there outside. Lady from TikTok.
The House of Representatives is supposed to vote to open the government back up. They separated the 5 funding bills from DHS. They're going to put DHS on a continuing resolution. That's what the Senate asked for. The House of Representatives Democrats, Hakeem Jeffries, has said that they're going to put up a fight. I don't know if someone needs to go tell him how the government works, but ICE is funded to the tune of 3 times their normal amount through the big, beautiful bill. So this will not impact them at all. So all of this is performative politics. And if you don't open the government, I will become your biggest op. Get off your soapbox, shut the fuck up, and open the government. I am so tired of these people just not doing what's best for the American people. For everyone saying, well, we need ICE reforms, cool, but this isn't going to do it. This isn't the way to do it. So pick a different path. Iran's president today said that they're willing to have fair and equitable negotiations with the U.S. Maduro on January 2nd said that he was willing to have drug smuggling conversations with the U.S. And on January 3rd, we went in and got him. So pay attention to the next 24 hours. It will be very interesting. Correlation doesn't mean causality, but I'm just saying the correlation exists. Also, the Olympics are coming up, and they're like, no fighting during the Olympics. Okay, is that how we do it now? Has anyone told blue and white country, because they bombed and killed 30 more people yesterday? Someone needs to tell them. They're in a peace deal though, but anyway. Clintons have said they're going to testify about the Epstein files. I don't know what's wrong with my hair. I don't think it matters. They're going to lie. Like, they're going to get up there and lie. They're fully capable of it. And no one is ever going to be arrested for it. Maybe they'll have 1 or 2 fall guys if we pressure them enough so people shut up. But yeah, so I'm just wondering why Ghislaine's in prison. Like, if you're not going to arrest these dirt bags, why is she in prison? There's still fraud in Minnesota that somehow that story has just kind of died down because of all the protests. I think that's really interesting, don't you? Also, considering that Minnesota only has 130,000 illegals and Texas and Florida have in the millions, yet all you hear about is Minnesota. Interesting. All right, that's it for now. Got to take my daughter to get her braces off. So exciting. Stay tuned.
Okay, another TikTok news lady. All right, 5 minutes.
election integrity, starting with voter rolls, and then going back and looking at anything all the way back to 2020, which there was an FBI raid last week that we know for sure from the people in Fulton County was about the 2020 election. Tell us where we are in that process and where you think what the American people should know about what you're trying to achieve with your election integrity push.
Right. So I think this is pretty straightforward. I'm surprised the amount of controversy it's created, but under the Help America Vote Act and other federal statutes, states have an obligation to keep their voter rolls clean. This is a basic concept. It applies to the integrity of our federal elections. And, a lot of states are behind in doing it. They don't use all the tools appropriate to do it. And that decreases confidence in the public. And I'm not saying this is all states. I'm saying this is many states. And so what you have is millions of ballots floating around in the mail that may be duplicates or dead people or people who aren't citizens, none of whom are entitled to vote in federal elections. So what we're doing is helping states clean up their voter rolls. And I'm happy to say that we have voluntary compliance now from 14 states. I think we're in the final stages of getting that from an additional 4 states. We have states that are not, we haven't quite sued them yet, but that's coming this week and next week. And then we have 24 states and one district, the District of Columbia, that I'm currently in litigation with to get their voter rolls. And those cases are in various stages. Some are moving forward, some are heading towards appeal. And we are going to keep marching forward until we either get all the voter rolls or we take this case all the way up to the Supreme Court, because under the 1960 Civil Rights Act, the Attorney General is entitled to review and inspect this data. Now, some of the goofy responses that I've gotten from secretaries of state have included, oh my goodness, this is highly confidential Social Security information. We can't possibly give that to the federal government. I mean, John, that's just silly because the federal government, of course, issues the Social Security numbers, and people routinely give it out on a daily basis when they go to the doctor and they go to the DMV, et cetera, et cetera. That's very silly. And also, a lot of these states that are not giving the government the voter roll data, they freely give it out to liberal groups so that they can use it to chase votes and voters in a targeted way. So that's kind of two-faced to do that. Now, Georgia is one of the states where we have multiple lawsuits going for the voter rolls, but also for those Fulton County ballots. There was an unusual situation in which there was litigation there. And so Fulton County had preserved those ballots. But now one of my colleagues in the DOJ has also gone in and executed a criminal search warrant after getting a magistrate to sign off on probable cause. And so generally speaking, John, criminal cases take precedence over civil cases in our federal system of justice. And so we're going to figure out the logistics there with the court and with our colleagues and see what those ballots show. I think it was highly unusual. A lot of things that happened in the 2020 election in the swing states, as you mentioned, I was involved in some of those as, a volunteer. And so we're going to see what we see, and whatever the evidence shows. I think it's important for the American people to know what happened in Fulton County and in Georgia, and to prevent gross errors or malfeasance from happening again. I think that's just important for the integrity and confidence of the public in our elections. And my final point on this is, in the rest of the world, they don't vote this way. I mean, we like to laugh at the rest of the world being backward or what have you. Countries, the entire Brexit vote in the UK was conducted on a single day, and they got the results after, a couple hours after the polls closed. They're just these paper ballots, and they don't send ballots in the mail that can be picked up by other people or voted. They don't allow people to self-identify as American citizens. That's ludicrous. And so a lot of these things really need to be changed. But at a minimum, I think we can all agree people should be voting only once, and it should be only American citizens, and we should not be opening ourselves up for fraud. And so we are here to ensure the integrity of our elections.
I have a funny feeling that 2026 will.
That was well said there. Only Americans. All right, I got 2 short clips, and I got a couple interesting Benny videos. Dang it.
A few days ago, we discussed reports that fans were planning to tune out of the Super Bowl halftime show in protest of Bad Bunny. But now that protest has evolved into a full-blown rival production with a star-studded lineup that's looking to steal millions of viewers away from Roger Goodell. Now, Turning Point USA has officially announced the launch of the All-American Halftime Show, and the lineup they've secured is sending shockwaves through the music industry. And we now know exactly who is stepping up to challenge the NFL on February 8th. The event will be headlined by Kid Rock, but he isn't doing it alone. He's recruited a powerhouse roster of country music heavyweights, including Brantley Gilbert, Lee Bryce, and Gabby Barrett. So now this is no longer just a boycott. This is a declaration of war on the direction of professional sports like the NFL. Kid Rock, who's leading the charge, issued a blistering statement that perfectly summarizes why this alternative show is happening. He took a direct shot at the NFL's choice of entertainment, contrasting his upcoming performance with what viewers can expect from the official broadcast. Kid Rock said, quote, he said he's having a dance party, wearing a dress and singing in Spanish. Cool. We want to play great songs for folks who love America. That comment about the dress refers to reports that Bad Bunny plans to wear a dress during the Super Bowl halftime show. We'll see what happens, but when you combine that with the fact that Bad Bunny has publicly criticized ICE agents and expressed fears about his fans being deported, it's clear the NFL is facing a massive cultural divide, with the organizers of the All-American Halftime Show leaning heavily into that divide, billing the event as a David versus Goliath battle. But the reality is Goliath is already stumbling. The rival show couldn't have come at a worse time for Roger Goodell because he's already dealing with the mutiny inside his own building. As we previously reported, ESPN has confirmed that prominent NFL owners are furious about the Bad Bunny selection. One anonymous owner reportedly told Goodell directly that he, quote, should have thought through the decision better. They aren't just worried about the culture war. They're worried about money for the NFL. The NFL is currently trying to close a massive ownership deal with ESPN that requires government antitrust approval. The owners are terrified that if Bad Bunny turns his halftime show into an anti-Trump political rally, President Trump will retaliate by killing the ESPN deal. So now Roger Goodell is fighting a two-front war. On the inside, he has owners warning him that the halftime show might cost them billions in business deals. And on the outside, he now has Kid Rock and Brantley Gilbert stealing his audience. And this rival show isn't just streaming on a smartphone. They've secured major distribution. The show will air at 8 p.m. Eastern, directly opposite the NFL halftime show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. But perhaps the most concerning for the NFL is it will also be broadcast on cable television through Sinclair Broadcast Group's Charge Network, which is available on major services like YouTube TV, Hulu, and Sling. This gives the millions of Americans who feel alienated by the NFL a legitimate, high-quality place to go. And President Donald Trump has already signaled his distaste for the NFL selection, calling it ridiculous and stating that he doesn't even know who Bad Bunny is. Now the president and his supporters have a tailor-made alternative featuring artists who have been unapologetic about their love for America. This also explains why stars like Brantley Gilbert and Lee Bryce were never in the conversation for NFL events. The industry has simply moved in a different direction. But these artists are proving they don't need the NFL's permission to put on a massive halftime show. So the choice on February 8th is now official. You can watch Bad Bunny and Green Day on the main stage, or you could switch over to Kid Rock, Brantley Gilbert, and Gabby Barrett for the All-American alternative. The NFL is about to find out how many fans they've truly lost. So which show will you be watching? The NFL's night?
I thought there weren't going to be a Super Bowl, someone said. Trump's not going to be there. Yeah, I got another 4-minute one and a couple up ones on Benny.
Somalians and refugees for years. These people have a voting bloc in Minneapolis and in Minnesota that vote straight Democrat, and they're responsible for a lot of the Democrats being in power. How do the Democrats pay these Somalians back? They allow them to steal free stuff. They allow them to defraud the federal government, and they don't prosecute them. But the Democrats have another motive for this happening also. They just don't pay these Somalians back for voting for them. The Somalians then also take part of this money and give it as a kickback to the Democrats so they can stay in power and keep giving the Somalians money. It's like a triangle trade, man, like slave trade. You know, it was guns, molasses, slaves, bam, where you got Democrats give Somalians money, Somalians get the money, and then the Somalians give some of the money back to the Democratic Party to stay in power. The federal government found out about this fraud and did two things. We're going to go up there and find some of these Somalians, these illegal people, and run them out. And we're going to prosecute the Democrats who's been taking the money and the Somalians who've been defrauding us. Democrats go into a panic. What do? Well, we got to go to war with ICE and the federal government because we ain't going down. They are irrational, they are emotional, and they are violent, and they are privileged. And most of them are white liberals. So you look out there and you think since ICE is coming after Somalians and people of color, you would think that they'd be the ones out there fighting ICE. And no, it's not. Matter of fact, most of the black folks say ICE ain't working fast enough.
For all the Black Americans saying ICE isn't our problem, you do realize that they're kidnapping Black Americans too.
White liberal racism is worse than getting called the hard R every single day of my life. Because what do you mean that because I'm Black, I'm supposed to empathize with literal criminals rather than caring about our country being safe? The caucasity that you have to sit here and act like you're more American than me. Technically, my people were imported here by popular demand. So no, I'm not going to sit here with fear of deportation. Where are they going to send me? Back to Air One? ICE is literally not the concern of Black people. Illegals breaking into our country, stealing our resources, violating our women, and trafficking our children, all while refusing to assimilate to the country that they broke into. That is the concern of Black people. That is the concern of all sane Americans. So I'm going to sit here and continue to support ICE, and you're going to sit there and continue wrestling with this bizarre hatred that you have towards your own ancestors.
The Black people are tired of these Somalians. They are tired of these illegal Hispanics and everything coming to their communities, tearing stuff up, selling dope, crowding them out. You don't see no Black folks out there fighting for these people. There's a bunch of crazy white liberals out there raising all of this hell. And this is the thing. They've lived in a vacuum. They've lived in a world where they really think that they are privileged. They think that their whiteness gives them special privileges in America. So they said, we're going to come there and protect you because they'll kill you, but they won't touch us because we're white and we're Americans. And they upped around and found out.
Okay, I hope that was all right.
For a fact, we're going to hear a lot more about Epstein in the coming year. And you may be even hearing from him directly. More on that as I'm allowed to tell you.
Interesting.
What's up, guys? It's Benny. Of the many earth-shattering revelations inside of the Jeffrey Epstein files, none are as consequential as this. Is Jeffrey Epstein alive? We just proved that Jeffrey Epstein was a body double. Here. A document inside of the Epstein document dump, which there are millions and millions of photos, videos, and emails, private text messages, correspondence that were released by the DOJ on Friday. One document proves that perhaps it was an inside job and that a whistleblower that told us everything was right after all. One of the jail cell guards named Roberto leaked on 4chan the morning of Epstein's death. So when everybody was like, wow, he committed suicide, This prison guard, Roberto Gravalas is his name, wrote this. I'm not saying that not saying anything after this, so please don't try and dox me. But last night, after the 4:15 body count, so they go around and they check all the inmates, right? Check to see that they're in their cells and that everyone's alive and well. Remember, Epstein was on suicide watch. They took him, Epstein, in a medical wheelchair, front cuffed, meaning he was chained to the wheelchair, couldn't get up. But not one triage nurse says they spoke to him. So if you were taking somebody in a wheelchair, you'd be taking them to the triage or to the small medical clinic inside of the prison, right? That's not where he went. Where did he go? Next thing we know, a trip van shows up. We do not do releases on the weekends unless a judge orders it. So nobody was being released from the prison. But a prisoner transfer vehicle shows up, and the next thing you know, he's put into a single-man cell and hangs himself? Here's the thing. The trip van did not sign in, and we did not record the plate number. And the guy in the green military dress outfit was in the back of the van. So a guy in a military outfit escorted Jeffrey Epstein out of the prison in a wheelchair. This is according to the tower guy who let him through the gate. You guys, I'm shaking right now, but I think they switched him out. Now, why are people saying that suddenly this anonymous 4chan account is real? You know, again, this is pretty huge allegation there, but pretty detailed, right? And it should be easy to blow a hole in that if it's not true, okay? Clearly, that could just be the psychotic ramblings of any Deegan on the internet, right? Any anon. The individual that posted on the 4chan account the morning of Epstein's death, claiming that they had a body double put in for Jeffrey Epstein, is Roberto Gralava. He is an officer inside of the Metropolitan Correctional Center in New York. He was identified as the anonymous prison employee who posted this on 4chan, claiming Epstein left his cell on Friday shackled to a wheelchair. Same time, an unauthorized trip van picked him up, and he was never seen again. This was the night before the news broke of his death. So, wait, what? So he's writing this before everybody even knew that Epstein had suicided himself. The day after Epstein's death, U.S. Attorney Jeffrey Berman of the Southern District of New York opened a grand jury proceeding and subpoenaed 4chan, Apple, AT&T, and Citibank for records aiming to uncover Roberto's identity following the anonymous 4chan post. That's a pretty aggressive procedure in order to find some rando on 4chan. Roberto's name is not redacted in his bank records, including the Southern District of New York subpoena responses from Citibank for his 4chan post and ties to the same prison officers. Roberto's statements were released as part of the prison's investigation into Epstein's death. This is huge. We now have validation that the 4chan post is a legitimate eyewitness account from inside of the prison from an officer that watched what happened to Epstein, that he may have been switched out before the news broke. Oh, man. Conspiracy theories ending up true. I was really sure he killed himself because nothing ever happens, but this is really something. Wow. Post gone viral, by the way. You see now 23,000 reposts, 100,000 likes. This is just crazy. There were anonymous 4chan posts, but nothing reputable until this. So this is actually from the prison guard. Wow. Many people have often suggested that Jeffrey Epstein was a body swap and that they were able to get away with it because they simply controlled everything down the chain. They have different people doing autopsies. The first person who did an autopsy obviously said that the bones in his jaw were broken. There's no way you could do that by hanging yourself. Rudy Giuliani was just on the show, and I asked him about this. He's like, dude, I built that prison. I built the prison. The ceilings are low. You can't hang yourself in that prison. It was designed that way. It was designed to not be able to hang yourself. Anonymous 4chan poster said Epstein was wheeled out of prison hours before his death. Subpoenas show that that man was a lieutenant in the prison at the time. It appears Epstein really did get broken out of prison and flown to Israel. Epstein files, bank records, grand jury subpoenas. Name is not redacted. This is an eyewitness, not a troll. They didn't debunk it. They tried to find him. Crazy, man. This is the same MCC officer documented knowledge about Epstein's cellmate situation the day before his death. That's fascinating because, of course, the cellmate was a convicted strangler, a guy who killed people with his bare hands. He was like a bodybuilder. So Roberto is the same guy that said, wait a second, why are we putting this guy inside of a cell with a strangler? Wow. This is crazy. I think they switched him out. And they have subpoenas. Someone wanted to know who this person was. Someone really wanted to know. I mean, why would the feds be coming after the bank records of a rando on 4chan, of an anon on 4chan? And one of the biggest controversies around Epstein's death is that his cellmate was removed shortly before he died, leaving him alone and unwatched. The memo shows that he had advanced knowledge of Epstein's housing arrangements. This is where it gets interesting. This is the exact same case ID. Whose bank records did they pull? Epstein is dead. People are sharing an old photo of him alongside the death pic, claiming it's a conspiracy theory. When you use a current pic, it's clear that the nose, brow, and upper lip are identical. Ears grow over time. Also, dead bodies swell quickly. It's him. You know, there's often been people who have said that Jeffrey Epstein, you know, the whatever cadaver, whatever they brought out of the prison is not actually Jeffrey Epstein. And they use sort of these blurry, grainy photos. I've never seen like a high definition, crisp photo of the actual body. I'm sure they exist somewhere. But wow. I mean, like this is a good example. Like people saying that the nose and the ears are all wrong, right? That they're not the same nose and ears. And they just found they found an already dead guy with gray hair and sort of the same complexion and just chucked him in there. What do you think? That's wild. Fresh footage inside of Jeffrey Epstein's actual cell. Video tour of Jeffrey Epstein's Manhattan prison cell. And you can see that the guards would not be able to see what was going on inside of the cell. You can also see the bed, the bed frames there, see how low the ceilings are, that it would be like damn near impossible to hang yourself here. I for one, do not believe, of course, that Jeffrey Epstein killed himself. We've stated that for a very, very long time. I just don't care what anybody says to me. And why would you have that many linens if a guy's on suicide watch? This is what his cell allegedly looked like when he was on suicide watch. Look at this. Yeah, I'm not buying it. This shows where Jeffrey Epstein took his life. Look, he hung himself on that. See that? There's blood all over Jeffrey Epstein's neck. Yeah, there's no blood in the cell. Yeah. There's a ton of cameras all over the place. I counted 12 at least, and the DOJ could recover to show us this video. This is totally a suicide. This individual is saying that in this video, you can see cameras just everywhere in the facility, and that the DOJ is just not giving it to us. Benny, you're crazy. You're a crackpot. You're insane. How dare you? Well, dude, 60 Minutes, and then they're as liberal as they come. 60 Minutes did an entire series on this. I encourage you to watch it.
Inside the cell,
it's crazy.
Typically
Where they
take from beginning to end.
Normally about 2 hours.
Where they talk
From when he was booked is dead.
They talked to the guy who does the autopsy, saying, I don't believe any of it. It's crazy.
From when he was booked in Florida. How long does the autopsy typically take from beginning to end?
Normally about 2 hours, a routine autopsy.
We spoke to multiple pathologists for this story, and they all pretty much agree on one thing, that without knowing the position of the body, the way that Jeffrey Epstein's body was found, it's almost impossible to determine the cause of death with any certainty. Knowing the position that a body was found in is a key piece of evidence in any death investigation. And in this case, we don't know how Jeffrey Epstein's body was found.
Look at that. Okay, there you go. Dude, what do you... If 60 Minutes and I are agreeing on something, you got a problem. Jeffrey Epstein still alive? Was this the get out of jail free card? You'll just go away and disappear forever? Man, crazy. We did ask Rudy Giuliani about this. Here's a very short clip of America's mayor who built the prison explaining he doesn't buy it. Do you think that it's plausible that they could have taken Jeffrey Epstein out of the prison and effectively this whole thing was just staged?
Well, I mean, of course it's not plausible, but there is evidence that it may have happened. So you had to do a much more thorough investigation to discount it. Barr recused himself originally when he was seeking to be Attorney General. Then he made the decision on the case and made the definitive statement that it wasn't a suicide. And then we find out that Barr's father hired him as an unqualified young man. That could be perfectly innocent. It might not be perfectly innocent. Was it ever really investigated? Doesn't seem like that.
Okay, that was the first penny. Got the second one here. This one is 12 minutes. I think this is 8 minutes.
File your taxes 100% free. Plus, get your biggest refund. Roughly 37% of filers qualify. Simple Form 1040 returns only. File now.
Ted told me you were the most beautiful woman that he'd ever met. I didn't expect the most beautiful woman I'd ever met. Oh, I'm a lot like you. Just looking for an amount.
What's up, guys? Benny. George Clooney's not been doing great lately. He's been looking very feeble and a little, I don't know, under the weather, weak, thin, skinny, gaunt, refuses to shake a hand with one of his fans here as he slithers backstage for his Broadway show. That's what he's been reduced to, the once great actor, as Quentin Tarantino says, was never actually a movie star, one of the least impressive people in all of Hollywood, somebody who doesn't even live in America anymore because, well, he's worried. That's right. He moved his family to a farm in France because he's worried. Why was George Clooney worried? Why was he worried right here around the time of the election? Was it that Donald Trump was getting back into office? George Clooney was worried that he was in the Epstein files. That's what many people said, and it turns out to be true. George Clooney is in the Epstein files. George Clooney does have connections to Epstein. We're going to go through all of them right now, directly from the DOJ's own website. Here we go. And Clooney is something that Jeffrey Epstein was sending to someone. You asked to remind you about George Clooney. Confirmed for 12:30 tomorrow. Okay. So looks like George Clooney's kind of in the zeitgeist here. Then we have other emails about George Clooney in Copenhagen with a smiley face emoji. What does George Clooney in Copenhagen mean? I know Copenhagen has interesting girls. Asked Gianni if we could see the agencies on his behalf. Still no reply. Kiss, kiss. What? What does that mean? So it's Jeffrey Epstein emailing about George Clooney in Copenhagen, presumably, right? Talking about getting interesting girls in Copenhagen. Getting some agencies to bring them interesting girls. I know Copenhagen has interesting girls. Clooney in Copenhagen. Still no reply. Kiss, kiss. Okay. Here's more. Can I have him use the same as George Clooney? This is from Jeffrey Epstein's email. Jeffrey Epstein emailing someone. Their name has been blotted out. In fact, what about George Clooney? Huh? Okay. Well, there's just a lot of commentary about George Clooney. This wouldn't be the first time that George Clooney's name has come up in relation to Jeffrey Epstein. George Clooney accused of sex act with Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh no. What is this exactly? Well, Ghislaine Maxwell apparently bragged about sexual encounters with George Clooney. George Clooney was accused of a sex act with Ghislaine Maxwell. She's currently in prison, obviously, for sex trafficking. Maxwell is accused of recruiting young girls. Ghislaine Maxwell is accused of accusing young girls for Epstein. She performed a sex act on George Clooney. Sex slave Virginia Roberts had a manuscript of her memoirs released by a New York court. Her memoirs say that Maxwell constantly talked about her globe-trotting tryst that she made, where she went around with a bunch of Hollywood actors and actresses. Once she came back giddy as a schoolgirl with an explosion of news, all to build up the excitement in her voice. She was the crown. She'd given George Clooney a blowjob in the bathroom at some random event. And she kept talking about it and constantly talked about it. It's not known if the incident actually took place. Okay. I mean, we do know that other Hollywood actors at the time, big-time Hollywood actors like Kevin Spacey, have regularly said and talked about their engagement with Ghislaine Maxwell. There's photos of Ghislaine Maxwell and Kevin Spacey on the royal thrones in England, actually. Prince Andrew is completely and totally destroyed in these files, photos and videos of him leering and luring over women. And are they talking about George Clooney here? Here we go. This is the Prince Andrew. And they clearly had Prince Andrew dead to rights. So were they talking about George Clooney? Let's read. Prince Andrew swapped gossip with Ghislaine Maxwell about a female friend who had been intimate with an actor named George C. A famous Hollywood actor named George C. Okay. Emails from the latest Epstein files have revealed. The day before Maxwell's birthday, the prince told the disgraced socialite that he has some gossip to pass on. He writes, I do believe tomorrow's significance to you.
Hey,
I spoke
Carol.
with Carol. She mentioned something about a man named George C. George C. was an actor in Hollywood.
Flying Eagle Red.
She saw Mr. C. at the premiere of a new movie.
Whatever he can.
And indiscreet a bit, I don't understand. She said she got licky palm with him. Oh, gosh. What is licky palm? It's something I must try someday. These people are freaks. After George Clooney attended the London premiere of his directorial debut, Confessions of a Dangerous Mind, but it's unclear if George C. refers to him. Yeah, it's unclear if it's unclear if this email about George C., the actor at his movie's premiere, is George Clooney. Okay, got it. Well, nobody wants to get sued, right? Goodness gracious. New Epstein files bombshell. George Clooney was in Copenhagen. In 2014, George Clooney was in Copenhagen, where Epstein appears to be visiting him, saying, I know Copenhagen has interesting girls. Those are real emails. They're really on the DOJ website. Here you go. You can see the URL right there. They're on the DOJ website. These are real. Clooney shows up multiple times in the Epstein emails.
That's why
Copenhagen has interesting girls.
1 day at a time.
His name comes up more than once. Once again, Trump's loudest critics turn out to be the ones on the Epstein list. Ooh, well, hello, George Clooney. George Clooney. Yes, another massive Trump hater. George Clooney was in the Epstein files talking about interesting girls in Europe. I mean, the emails are real. What happened there? I don't know. I'm not sure. Plenty of other scumbags in there, though. And again, wouldn't be the first time that George Clooney has been, mentioned by the Epstein inner circle, as it were. George Clooney's had a really rough time in the last couple of movie premieres and debuts. He's had $200 million flops. His Rotten Tomatoes is absolutely atrocious here. You can see here the tomato meter. Literally no good movies has been released by George Clooney. He is not a movie star. He is a kind of cringy political actor now, with a bad hair dye job, who gets hounded and harassed by Fox News. This is kind of funny. And who has fled the country? I don't know, man. I don't know. If the Congress issues more subpoenas, would love to know. Would love to know. It's always the people you most expect. It's your boy Benny. See ya.
All right, we got 2 Bennies in now so far. Got a short clips. I'm going to stay on as long as I can to save for the show for tonight. I got a couple latest Patriot Princess too. A lot of new videos I found. Yeah. We'll play this 3-minute one.
Think about it. The one place that supposedly circles our planet is also the one place you can't just freely explore. Coincidence, or something colder and much bigger? Watch this. Every map, from Google Earth to the ones in classrooms, stretches and bends the world until Antarctica becomes this thin white strip, almost like a border. But in real life, it's huge, bigger than the United States and Europe combined. So why make it look so small? Why turn a massive continent into a little footnote? Here's where it gets strange. Go too far inland, and suddenly, restricted zones, no-fly areas, military outposts, and there's even a treaty signed by over 50 countries that says no one owns it. But somehow everyone controls it. Why would so many nations who argue about everything else suddenly agree to protect a land of nothing but ice? And look at this. On some maps, Antarctica isn't at the bottom at all. It wraps around the edges like a giant icy ring, almost like a wall holding everything in. Now imagine this. If Earth is a spinning ball, shouldn't Antarctica be a tiny cap at the bottom? But what if it isn't the bottom at all? What if it's the edge, not just a continent, but a boundary? I'm not saying what's beyond it. I'm just asking, why can't we see for ourselves? Why do all maps crop the one place no one's allowed to truly visit? Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's everything. But one thing's clear. Someone decided where the world ends, and the rest of us just believed it. So the next time you unfold a map, don't just look at the countries you recognize. Let your eyes drift to the blank spaces, the edges, the places drawn in white. History has always tucked its biggest questions into margins. Maybe Antarctica is one of those margins. Not a destination, but a pause, a place where the page fades before the story is finished. And whatever the truth is, it waits out there in the cold, untouched by lines of ink and names we've been taught to memorize.
Okay, latest update at Antarctica. Moving right along here. This guy is, I believe, we all remember him. I got him on Telegram. You guys okay with him?
Yes. So here's what I wrote.
9 minutes.
All right, yesterday, which would have been January 27th. All right, yesterday, January 27th on Fox News, there was an EMS-like event that took place. So we've been warned, just as the Q Post said we would be warned.
Yeah,
We've had our test screen. Because watch what happens while President Trump is live on Fox News. And remember, Fox is 45, Trump is 45, right? So it's even on Trump station, which is Fox News. So, all right, yesterday, January 27th, there was an EMS-like event that took place. Fox was televising President Trump's speech in Iowa for the midterms when precisely at 5:37 p.m., which is 17:37 Q, 17:37 military time, President Trump's speech was interrupted for 2 seconds by a test pattern with a title in the middle of the screen that said New York TX, New York, Texas, New York TX. Now, immediately that makes us think about Q post 1737, because it happened at 1737 military time. So what's Q post 1737? Which says simply device test. Oh my God. So just this week, we got our warning. So when I say to you that the game's on, this is happening, it's only a question of when it's happening. We got the screen test. Q post 1737 this week, January 27th, 1737 military time, we got device test is what Q post 1737 said. So let's watch for a second and open your mind and see. Oh my God. Oh. Here's Q post 1737. Device test.
Going good, Papa Joe. You. Kay's getting better.
Holy shit.
Hopefully she'll be in soon.
You can't make that stuff up. It's absolutely, there's no such thing as coincidence. That is just confirmation over and over and over again. And you're just sitting there going,
yeah, it's all
how much more do we need before we know?
Yeah. And by the way, look at the time call for Q post 1737. It's 1551, which is 66. If you add the mirrors, it's a mirror. 15 and 51, 66. The journey of man. Yep, the journey of man is
17 is it's 17, 15, 16, 17.
Yep.
17.
That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yep. Okay, and then this makes us think, once you see these things, it just triggers in your head. So it triggered that post, which then triggers one of the most famous of them all, which is Q post 34, okay? And it says, Q clearance patriot. My fellow Americans, over the course of the next several days, oh my God, this is all based on an EMS and the test screen. Over the next several days, you will undoubtedly realize that we're taking back our great country, the land of the free, from the evil tyrants that wish to do us harm and destroy the last remaining refuge of shining light. On POTUS's order, we have initiated certain fail-safes that shall safeguard the public from the primary fallout, which is slated to occur 11/3. But again, what does 11/3 mean? What does it means? Many things. But again, you're going back to the Protocols of War, the book of the Protocols of War through the military. Upon the arrest announcement of Mr. Podesta, but again, this is all symbolic. Actionable 11/4, which is to take action of 11/3. Treason.
Okay,
confirmation to the public of what is occurring will then be revealed and will not be openly accepted. Public riots are being organized in serious numbers in an effort to prevent the arrest and capture of more.
There's one simple dental hack anyone can do to rebuild gums and teeth and never see a dentist again. Did you know?
Senior public officials so they can try and get away. On POTUS's order, a state of temporary military control will be actioned and special ops carried out. Special ops. False leaks have been made to retain several within the confines of the United States to prevent extradition and special operator necessary. Rest assured, the safety and well-being of every man, woman, and child of this country is being exhausted in full. However, the atmosphere within the country will unfortunately be divided as so many have fallen for the corrupt and evil narrative that has long been the broadcast. And remember, to this day, it's still about 50-50, 40-60 in the truth community that Trump is evil. Like, it's just staggering how wicked and evil people could be, or how blind and asleep people can be, but it still is. More people literally are teaching their followers that Trump is wicked and evil. You're going to get yours. You're just going to get yours. And it's only fair and right that you do.
Charlie, yeah, they're all, oh yeah, okay, you're reading.
Hold on, Speedy. We will be initiating the emergency broadcast system during this time in an effort to provide a direct message, avoiding the fake news, to all citizens, organizations, and/or people that wish us to do us harm during this time will be met with swift fury. Certain laws have been pre-lifted to provide our great military the necessary authority to carry out and conduct these operations at home. And Q Post 34, Grace 34, Tie 34, and the number is yellow. So you could do the gematria, by the way, for yellow tie, which is very, very interesting as well. And again, it all comes back because the day before the Philadelphia 76ers Jumbotron went crazy, and you didn't.
And Charlie, what's the magic word? Please.
Yes.
What did he just say today? You have to say in capital letters, please. So whenever they're going to say we need help, please, they'll step in. But don't mess around with federal buildings or we're going to come in. So what's going to happen?
It's not over.
So just take a look now in your email and you'll see those posts, those Q posts that just came up.
Okay, so.
Oh, My Fellow American is 194 and 76ers is 194.
Wow, 76ers 194. My fellow Americans, the storm is upon us. Oh my Lord. We're here. We're here.
Okay, I found him on Telegram. Three minutes.
And I was made aware in the last video that I posted that a lot of people aren't even aware of what's going on in Nashville. The news is not covering it. People don't even know that Nashville got hit this hard with this ice storm. So you can hear it here from the source. I'm here in Nashville and been without power for 6 days now. Apparently, the Nashville Electric Service has turned away a lot of help from outside companies and linemen who were trying to come in and help reestablish power. Check the news, and it looks like they didn't want to pay union rates for these outside linemen to come into town. I checked NES's website. There's still over 70,000 people without power, and that's been almost a week of people staying in their homes in below freezing temps that still don't have power. It's 29 degrees right now, and it's barely gotten above freezing the last few days. Last night, we stayed at a hotel just south of Nashville, thanks to Rolling Hills Church. Thank you so much. And my wife just called me and said that a church in Franklin is going to cover a hotel for us for 2 more nights. And it's just, I feel like God just keeps showing up. People just keep reaching out and are wanting to help. And it's not like me to accept help from people, but we're okay. Our kids are safe. We have a place to stay, but I feel like God just keeps showing up. People are looking out for us and people care, but please pray for Nashville, because there are people out there that are still staying in their houses that don't have a place to stay. My concern is for the people that don't have the resources and don't have the ability to get out of their house. And it's cold here, man. Some have generators. A lot don't have generators. Most of the places were out of stock generators by the time we realized that we needed them. We're just taking it one day at a time. a huge thank you to Rolling Hills.
Yo, if that's true, that basically the city and or whatever, right? The utility companies are basically denying paying whatever it is that they need to pay. You pay whatever it is that you need to pay in order to get
Don't play it no
power
more,
back
Dave.
on. Then that's crazy. And so I'm gonna have to do some deep diving and researching myself. But usually what happens is when you see a situation where there's a catastrophe or whatever, linemen come from other states and other companies in order to help and assist to ensure that the power is turned back on and that things are fixed. And this is one of the reasons why why I say that men are the most important resources, because when the rubber meets the road, you got to get a man.
Yeah, that's that one guy there. Yeah, I didn't know if he was good or still good or not. We got a new video. I can't remember if I played it, but it's about a minute and a half. Minute and a half on this.
Does the investigation confirm that there are missing ballots?
You guys remember this one?
Yes.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
Do you know why 380,761 ballot images from Election Day machine count are not available?
We subpoenaed Fulton County for all of their ballot images. We received approximately 518,000 ballot images.
From Election Day?
Those are for the recount.
Those are from the recount, but we have no ballot images for 380,761 ballots from Election Day, correct?
What was subpoenaed was the ballot images for the recount, because that's what this case was about, not the Election Day.
Does Fulton County know why there are not 380,761 ballot images from Election Day?
As with the investigators, we have not been apprised of this allegation. This is the first I'm hearing about it. I have no idea what the basis of that allegation is, and so we would have to. We can't answer that at this time.
Would Fulton County agree that every vote should have a ballot image? Does the investigation confirm that there are missing ballot images?
Okay, that was a short clip. Yeah. They're finding more news on that. 3 parts on this one. I got a 3-part with Benny again.
Of a continuing resolution funding bill. I know, boring, right? They want to prevent a partial government shutdown. But this is actually very important because last month the Senate passed a package covering several departments, but they split up this CR bill because of outrage over ICE. Now, ICE is going to be okay. They've actually have a lot of funding, believe it or not, even though that they're going to have additional funding in this CR bill. But I digress here. Democrats did not want to keep funding ICE. They didn't want to have additional funding for the Department of Homeland Security for deportations. So they actually carved it out. The Republicans and the Democrats, in order to come to some sort of consensus, they carved it out and they're voting on some of these things separate. And now the government is heading towards a partial government shutdown unless the leadership comes to an agreement on the remaining appropriations. And if there is one cause that should be absolutely non-negotiable for this country, it's making sure our elections are legitimate. I think we all agree on this. And this is where Anna Paulina Luna comes in. She has taken upon herself to rally Republicans and demand that the SAVE Act be attached to this funding bill, forcing a vote in the Senate if they want the rest of the government to be funded. Now, the SAVE Act has already passed the House, and it's been sitting in the Senate for a while now, collecting dust, with Democrats refusing to touch it and Republicans basically refusing to bring it to the floor for a vote because Democrats are saying there's no way this is going to happen. So Anna Paulina's move is pretty simple. No funding without a vote. So she wants to lump it in with this vote. And if they don't pass it, it's going to trigger a partial government shutdown, which I think is absolutely a good deal for Americans. Like, who cares? I think Americans would rather have a fight over the SAVE Act than, just pass a continuing resolution bill to fund the rest of the government right away. I mean, I'm sorry. I'm kind of sick and tired of talking about accountability for these elections. I'm tired of people going back and forth over whether or not we should have IDs when it's just like the dumbest thing ever. It's just like everyone knows that we should have some sort of system in place to ensure in every single state, if you're voting in an election, that you are an actual American. But Chuck Schumer is in absolute full meltdown mode over the SAVE Act and what Anna Paulina Luna is trying to do. He's already saying if this funding bill comes to the Senate with the SAVE Act attached, it is dead in the water. Why? Because he claims the SAVE Act imposes Jim Crow-like restrictions. And what are these scary restrictions? Pretty simple. Voter ID, a driver's license, some sort of identification proving you're actually a citizen of the United States before you vote. That's it. So in his own statement, he held a press conference. Schumer basically exposed the real goal of the Democrats. The ultimate push from Democrats is citizenship for illegal immigrants. That's what they're aiming at, which tells you everything. This isn't about protecting Americans. It's not about fair elections. It's about power. They want to win by any means necessary, even if that means mass amnesty and changing the electorate instead of convincing it. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to take a listen to this. This is Chuck Schumer melting down over Anna Paulina Luna's push to attach the SAVE Act to the continuing resolution bill.
Okay, part one. I got part two right here, and three.
Reproducing it on its own with the same level that it used to. The only way we're going to have a great future in America is if we welcome and embrace immigrants, the dreamers, and all of them, because our ultimate goal is to help the dreamers, but get a path to citizenship for all 11 million or however many undocumented there are here.
Did you catch that? So he is saying that their ultimate goal, he just literally said the quiet part out loud. Their ultimate goal is to make sure that the 11 million or so, I mean, there's many more than that. I think we all know, because that's what 15 million came under Biden. And that's just like a mid-range estimate. They want all of those people to have amnesty. And, there has been people that looked at this, and if this were to happen, states like Texas would turn blue immediately. So this is not about them caring about illegal immigrants, or this is not about them caring about America, the United States, American citizens. This is about power for Democrats. And this is a statement that he put out where he said the SAVE Act would impose Jim Crow style restrictions on voting, which is a complete lie. And I want you to take a look at this whole statement. I'm going to read this, and then we're going to get into what Anna Paulina Luna is doing, what she is saying. Leader Schumer says SAVE Act will be dead on arrival in the Senate and warns of another GOP shutdown. So they're literally willing to shut down the government. They're always ranting and raving. Remember when they're in power, the Republicans, they'd be fighting over something. It'd come right down to the wire, and the Republicans would give up every single time. What we've seen with Democrats, unfortunately, is the fact that they are willing to go all the way. They are literally willing to shut down the government for weeks upon weeks to get what they want. And it's absolutely sick. And if there is one cause I think the government should be shut down over, it's election integrity. But take a listen to this. Today, Senate Democrat leader Chuck Schumer released the following statement on the SAVE Act, which would impose, quote, Jim Crow style restrictions on voting and will be dead on arrival in the Senate if passed in the House. And this is what he said. I have said it before, and I'll say it again. The SAVE Act would impose Jim Crow type laws to the entire country and is dead on arrival in the Senate. It is a poison pill that will kill any legislation that is attached to it. If House Republicans add the SAVE Act to the bipartisan appropriations package, it will lead to another prolonged Trump government shutdown. Let's be clear, the SAVE Act is not about securing our elections. It is about suppressing voters. The SAVE Act seeks to disenfranchise millions of American citizens, seize control of our elections, and fan the flames of election skepticism and denialism. The SAVE Act is reminiscent of Jim Crow era laws that would expand them to the whole of America. Republicans want to restore Jim Crow and apply it from one end of this country to another. It will not happen. Democrats will go all out to defeat the SAVE Act and defend free and fair elections. So that shows you guys just how terrified they are at the SAVE Act, which honestly makes me support it all the more. And if you read the SAVE Act and what's in the SAVE Act, there is no voter suppression. It's absolutely hilarious. They are so scared of people actually having to prove that they are American citizens to vote that they will literally put the entire government, well, I guess in this case, partial government, but they will grind certain departments to a complete halt and whine and complain and kick their legs and throw tantrums just so they can make sure in certain states, because certain states require it, but there's, I think, 14 that don't, just to ensure.
Short of workers, we have a population.
Okay, one more part. Get this next one here. I thought I had part 3. Okay, now I got part 3.
States that absolutely do not require verification of a person's citizenship status to vote, which essentially basically locks in
4 minutes.
These blue states to win for the Democrats almost every single time. But this is what Representative Anna Paulina Luna had to say about Chuck Schumer freaking out about the SAVE Act. She says, I hope Americans are watching. Schumer does not want voter ID because they're actively importing illegals. At the same time, they're asking for billions of dollars in taxpayer funds for their pet projects and successfully negotiated defunding the DHS. The SAVE Act is dead on arrival unless Thune removes the filibuster or Democrats break from Schumer to save their own billions of dollars in projects. And this is what Anna Paulina Luna has been saying about the SAVE Act and how she wants to attach it to this appropriations bill. I want you to take a listen to this.
Bills have to come back to the House. And so I've actually formed an alliance with a handful of other Republican members that will refuse to vote on any legislation to send it over to the Senate unless there's something specifically placed in it and something called a rule that would prevent the Senate from stripping out the SAVE Act. So it would force them, if they choose to shut down the government, when they choose to reopen it, they will have to also then to simultaneously vote on the SAVE Act, which would basically save our country with election integrity. So we can play this game of chicken, but I do have a handful of Republicans that will stand with me very strong and ensure that this is done on behalf of the American people. So we're here to deliver.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think this is definitely something to shut down the government over. The fact that our leaders think it's appropriate to just let this thing stall in the Senate, I think is absolutely criminal. And we have Hakeem Jeffries also. He's saying some crazy things about the SAVE Act, just like Chuck Schumer. This is like the one thing, you know, Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, when they go to sleep at night, they have nightmares over the SAVE Act passing, because as soon as the SAVE Act passes, guess what? Guess what happens to support for Democrats? Guess what happens to their power? It's dwindled almost immediately overnight. I mean, their donors are going to be going away. They're going to be going to the Republicans because the Republicans are going to have a significant amount more power And they absolutely do not want this to happen. And this is all coming from people who aren't even citizens of the United States voting for Democrats. So what are we even doing in this country if we don't have some sort of requirement for a voter ID? And what does it say about Democrats when I mean it's almost proven, just seeing their reaction and their opposition to this bill. What does it say about Democrats that it looks like a giant portion of their support are coming from people who aren't even citizens of the United States of America? But I want you to take a listen to Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, his reaction to this. And he's basically laughing about it like it's hilarious, like this will never happen. And I'm going to show you here in a second that it's actually a massive percentage of Americans who want the SAVE Act passed. But take a listen.
Leader Jeffries, what do you make of Anna Paulina Luna talking about attaching the SAVE Act to the DHS funding bill when it comes back to the House with the amendments made for DHS?
That's not happening. The reality is what's in front of us right now is that ICE needs to be dramatically and totally reformed. Big changes are needed that are bold and transformative, period, full stop.
So do you support the SAVE Act, SAVE Act voter ID for elections? Do you support that?
We support dramatic changes to the manner in which DHS has been conducting itself. Taxpayer dollars
to ensure that there are.
Okay, he does a good job with his intel. Next one is 10 minutes, and let me know if we played it already. I don't think I have.
Showed their love to beloved cheesecakes. The party of kindness, acceptance.
17 hours ago.
The party that everyone belongs. Really spoke yesterday. For those of you that don't know, we are an Oregon-based company, Beloved Cheesecakes, and we've been around now almost 7 years. We started 8 months before the lockdown with our first brick and mortar. After 8 months of being open and the lockdown came, I chose to stay open. I was a sole parent to 3 boys at the time, and I'm essential to my children, so I stayed open. So I started receiving backlash then. Then in May of 2020, the George Floyd incident happened and the BLM movement started, and I didn't put Black Lives Matter in my windows. So I was deemed racist then.
I think this is a good.
Hated because I didn't put Black Lives Matter in my window. Then the whole mask thing came, and you guys know how it all went. I've been running this business now for almost 7 years. And in the time that we are living in, it is not easy running a small business. I think probably in 2026, but especially here in Oregon. I'll just start with Friday was the anti-ICE protest movement, which was no school, don't show up to school, don't show up to work, don't shop. Again, just like in COVID, our livelihood depends on people shopping, purchasing cheesecakes. And it's not just my livelihood, it is my team's livelihood. It is so I can pay my team, and they can get their paychecks, and they can get their tips, and all the above. So all I did was put a story. I didn't even do a post. I just shared on our story, hey, we're open. Both locations, online shipping, and we love Jesus, we love America, and we support our law enforcement. And that was it. And of course, the negative reviews and the negative backlash started, which, you know what? That is the beauty of America. We live in a free country. We live where you can have all the freedom of hate speech that you want. If you tried this in other countries, it wouldn't fly. But we are an America first business. We love America. We love freedom. And so yesterday, the woke mob, the virtual woke mob, got a hold of our Facebook page, our business Facebook page, and started annihilating our Facebook page with awful words. And it just truly harassment, was getting emails of gay porn, getting threats, being told, we hope your business fails. And can I tell you, for all those who hope our business fails, I hope you succeed. I really hope you find someone in your life that believes in you, as I have found with the people who believe in Beloved Cheesecakes and believe in us and what we are doing. But most importantly, Jesus believes in you, and he believes in me. And he is the one who created Beloved Cheesecakes. I didn't create Beloved Cheesecakes for him. He created Beloved Cheesecakes for me and for my team. And it's going to continue to grow. And we will continue unashamedly share Jesus and share our love for this country. That is who we are. We are not ashamed. I do support law enforcement. My son is in law enforcement. So it's personal. And I do love people. And I do love immigrants. I even love the criminals. But I believe our criminals that have been come over here undocumented, unvetted, and raping women and assaulting women and children and law enforcement and all the trafficking, the human trafficking that is done here. I believe that they need to go back to their country. And so I'm going to continue to believe that. I'm going to continue to express my beliefs. Beloved Cheesecakes has always been more than just cheesecake. And God has given me a platform. And, you know, I went to school for social work. So I got my bachelor's in social work. And one of the things with social workers that you're taught, or really any state agency job, is you are considered a mandatory reporter, which means if someone is going to harm you or harm someone else, or you're going to harm yourself, then you need to report it to the authorities. But the media doesn't portray what is really going on. They don't report accurately. So I'm going to report and tell you that we have been threatened with harm. And, you know, threatened that our building is going to burn down. And you know what? I'm not afraid. I'm not going to back down. You don't have to support us. You don't have to buy from us. That is the beauty of living in this beautiful country. You don't have to purchase from us, and that is okay. I can tell you what, if I don't go around when I see a rainbow on someone's page, or I see a furry walking down the street, or I see a transgender person walking down the street, or even coming into our shop, I would never, ever, ever treat any human being the way that we were treated yesterday. Ever. I wouldn't. I just don't care. I would never treat someone like that. But the party of love, the party that is supposedly of love, treats those who don't agree with them or believe differently as if we're not of value. And every human has value. I say this a lot when I interview candidates. It doesn't matter how much you hate somebody, that person still has value to God. And, you know, I was asked recently in an interview process, well, how do you feel about LGBT? And I said that they're humans and that they have worth and value, just like all of us. And even the person that you hate the most, which would be Trump, he's got value. And so anyways, I just wanted to address the woke mob that is trying to annihilate our Facebook page and trying to assassinate who we are and our character. We have never called anyone an N-word. We never will. And I have people that could vouch for me. And
I hope this one was
how
okay,
we
you guys.
treat humans. I mean, you can ask our customers.
News out of Oregon.
You can ask the ones that have come in here that don't believe the same way that we do. And we treat everybody with the same dignity and respect because everybody deserves to be loved. So thank you. Thank you for those who do support us, who love us. We will continue serving America's favorite cheesecake. And we are going to continue to be free and have our freedom to express our business in the way that we want to. And you may wonder why a business expresses freedom and why they get involved is because we are the backbone of America.
Okay, a very important video, I thought, out of Oregon. I got two short Patriot Princess. Probably go to 2:30, you guys. We'll go to 2:30. Back at 6 o'clock. Ten minutes.
Look at ICE right now. They're raiding every city in the US. ICE. Think about that. What is ICE slang for? Diamonds. Remember when President Trump said we're going to get those diamonds back, return the diamonds? ICE operations are not racist. It's not just about deporting illegals. It's raiding the pedophiles. ICE is saving the children. ICE is getting the diamonds back. You're seeing the diamonds be returned right in front of your face right now.
Like you said, the unaccompanied minors, we're so focused on finding the more than 300,000 children that came into this country and were given as sponsors that we don't even know who these sponsors are, right? So when you hear about people, ICE agents separating families, or ICE agents are going to school, no, the ICE agents, the men and women of Homeland Security investigations, are going to the last lead they had. They're trying to find this child, trying to make sure it's not, a victim of human trafficking or sex trafficking.
Look at this top story. A child. Her name is Diamond Shakur. She wins the national chess competition. Chess, shall we play a game? Diamond, return the diamonds. Look at her last name, Shakur. Think mirror. Part of her name says rook, backwards. A rook in chess. In the end game, a rook is a very powerful piece and can often deliver a checkmate, especially when paired with another. So 2 rooks, double. It's always been about the children. ICE is saving the children and raiding the pedophiles, but mainstream media won't tell you that. Mainstream media is the virus. Rook. Is there going to be 2 rooks that come out that take over the airwaves and tell us the truth and come out with possibly a trump card? Evidence of politicians and Hollywood celebrities committing crimes against humanity, which will lead to the first arrest? Look closely at what President Trump posted. He said, make crime illegal again, 168. Look closely at what Phil posted. He said, where is the blood? Blood. like red October, blood, like adrenochrome. Is October going to be the month where the truth comes out about adrenochrome? Red October? Make crime illegal again, 168. Q-Post 168 says Red October, follow the map. Where is the blood, 168? They wanted us to see the blood coming out of Charlie Kirk's neck. Neck, 33. Medbed, 33. Kim, 33. President Trump just posted about medbeds. Charlie Kirk was shot in the neck. And Kim Kardashian is in the news. Ray J is about to come out with truth about her and Chris and her racketeering of their illegal companies. Look closely at Phil's post. He says, where is the blood? And then 0 is in all caps. 064, day 164, like October. Everything starts in October. Michigan 64, the church just caught fire in Michigan. Fire, like code red, Red October. And then he says, oh, it's on the table, 173. 2 days notice, 173. October starts in 2 days.
Thanks, Polygo.
Q-Post 173. Blackmail this time. Keystone. Blackmail. Shall we play a game? The deep state was winning their game using blackmail. But now we'll play that game. And we have our own blackmail. Trump card. Think McAfee, Snowden, and witness protection people that have evidence and proof of crimes against humanity. Like Ray J said, he rolled on Kim and her mom. He knows everything and he's going to tell all. Oh, it's on the table, 173. Q-Post 173. Blackmail this time. Keystone. Who are the keystones? What if Comey is one of the keystones? I mean, think about it. If he falls, they all fall. And what if they have blackmail on Comey? Comey lives on blackmail. He was head of the FBI in 2013. Imagine what he knows. That's how he works. They use blackmail. And think about blackmail. That's the whole purpose of Epstein Island and Ghislaine Maxwell. That's their whole business, is blackmail. They use the child pedophilia as leverage. So what if Comey is connected to Epstein Island? What if he went? What if he's on the list? What if there's proof? And what if somebody, Trump card, a rook, is coming out with that proof about Comey to take out the keystone, to start the first domino? That would be the biggest boomerang ever if there's serious blackmail on Comey. Shall we play a game? We can play that game too, Comey. Q-Post 2472. We knew then, and we know now. Only this time we have government control. Boomerang. And look closely at the evidence that's come out about Charlie Kirk's assassination. There was a trap door, like a door, like Q-Post 167. POTUS opens the door of all doors. Keystone. Trap door. Trap. Everything's a trap. What if there's agents on the inside? Q-Post 269. Key unlocks the door. Info. Like the Trump card? Like 2 rooks coming out with some intel? Checkmate? That will bring the house down? Like blackmail on Comey? Biggest boomerang ever? Or like blackmail on Kim? Is she the keystone of Hollywood? Kim and Chris. Are they the keystone of Hollywood? What if Comey, Chris, and Kim are all linked to adrenochrome? Red October. The blood. Where is the blood? Charlie Kirk's blood. The truth about adrenochrome is coming. Look closely at what President Trump posted. This epidemic of violence must end immediately, 631. Why aren't people asking where are they getting the human organs, 631? Organ trafficking. Is that what Kim and Chris were into? Is that their racketeering business? President Trump just deployed troops to Portland, Oregon. That is no coincidence. It's a comm. Organ harvesting. And the Q posts are coming to life right before your eyes. Look at Q post 4730. See the key words? It says 10:09. Charlie Kirk was shot on 9:10. Think mirror. X marks the spot. Read the Mickey clock like an X. The hand is pointing to a 2, and directly across from that in the X pattern points to an 8. 8 plus 2 is 10. 10 is October, red October. Or it could read 208. Add a 0. That's 208. Return the diamonds, 208. Are the diamonds going to be... Notice Mickey's ear has an 11 on it. His right ear. Trump's right ear got shot. Charlie Kirk was wearing an earpiece in his right ear. Now look at the Mickey clock like an X pattern. Directly down is a 5. You could read that like 11:5. Will we hear some truth? Will we hear the EBS on 11:5? Remember the 5th of November. V for Vendetta. The explosion. Will DC explode around 11:5? Will we hear the truth about adrenochrome and the diamonds, the children, on 11:5? This has always been about the children, and it's always been about the blood. This is a holy war, a spiritual war, dark versus light. You and I, we the people, God's people, we have divine DNA, and Satan has been after our blood since the beginning, and this is about the children. ICE is raiding the pedophiles, but the mainstream media won't tell you that. The mainstream media is the problem. We are the news now. This is a war for humanity. This is a war for our soul. This is a war for our blood. And we will have those diamonds back. We will have peace and prosperity, and we will have our country back.
Okay, that was a 10-minute one from Princess. Got a 5-minute one, and then I got one 15-minute one from the press secretary. She just came out with a video, so that was good timing. And about 2:30. Dang it. I got frozen. Ah. I was frozen there for a sec. Four minutes on this one.
I think you're about to get it. Take a look at the Rose Bowl parade yesterday. Mickey Mouse was featured in the parade. Q-Post 4730, the Mickey Mouse clock. And look how it's laid out. It's laid out in an X. Look at Epstein Island, Little St. James. It's laid out in an X. And look where it's located on the map. It's close to Venezuela. Look where our military fleet is positioned. The Panama Canal, Venezuela, Epstein Island, Haiti, which was the Clinton Foundation's playground, and Guantanamo Bay Prison. It's all right there. What if we're about to get the real Epstein files, but in a different way? Look what Elon said. He said, X is the media now because you are the media now. Because, like Q Post 34 says, mainstream media must be bypassed. Mainstream media is not for the people. They're bought and paid for and scripted by the cabal. And today marks 10 days since Christmas. Q Post 88, 10 days, darkness, scare tactics, MSM. Mainstream media must be bypassed. They cannot be trusted. And like Elon said, you are the media now. What if they go live and stream it on X and show the real Epstein Island and put out the real Epstein list and show what's really going on in Guantanamo Bay prison and who's really there? It's interesting because the military is strategically positioned right now to hold the line if they do something like that. And don't forget what happened in Venezuela. Venezuela is the headquarters for Smartmatics, which was the fraudulent software used to hack into elections and rig them. And remember, Obama was involved with that, and he was seen there. And look closely at Q Post 4730, the Mickey clock. Mickey's ear is on the 11, and if you follow it down like an X pattern, his foot is on the 5. That's 11-5. That's election day. And look closely at what President Trump posted on January 2nd, a picture of a dead eagle. And he said, Eagle's going down. Eagle's going down, 157. Decertification, 157. The stage is set, 157. What if it all comes at once? The truth about Epstein Island, Clinton Foundation in Haiti, Guantanamo Bay prison, the Clintons, and decertification, and the election fraud in Venezuela with Smartmatics and Obama. What if it's all connected? And what if we get it all at once? And what if we get it in a way that we're not expecting? Like live streaming through X or something. You are the media now.
Okay, that was a short one that time. Yep. Okay, got two of hers out. Now we got the press secretary. She just finished a video here. Just came out, 14 minutes.
Habla Carolina Levy. No voy a poder hablar. Llega la portavoz de la Casa Blanca, Caroline Levy. Hello, Caroline. What can you tell us about the meeting with President Gustavo Petro? How was it? Was it in a good tone? What are the results?
I wish I had more for you. The meeting was just wrapping up as I was walking out here. So I will go in and get a readout from the president, which I myself, or I'm sure he, will provide to all of you directly on Truth Social. But I spoke with the president before the meeting, and he was in a very positive headspace, and he was looking forward to sitting down with President Petro to have a conversation. So we will all see how that went together.
Thank you so much, Caroline. What does President Trump mean when he says Republicans ought to nationalize voting? What does that look like in practice?
What the president was referring to is the SAVE Act, which is a huge common sense piece of legislation that Republicans have supported, that President Trump is committed to signing into law during his term. And he spoke with the speaker directly about that yesterday, about the need to get that bill on the floor for a vote, because it provides very common sense measures for voting in our country, such as voter ID. I don't think any rational person who's being honest with themselves would disagree with the idea of requiring citizens of this country to present an ID before casting a ballot in a federal election, or frankly in any election. And that's something the president wants to see happen. So that's what he was referring to.
But to be clear, he does believe the state should oversee.
The president believes in the United States Constitution. However, he believes there has obviously been a lot of fraud and irregularities that have taken place in American elections. And again, voter ID is a highly popular and common sense policy that the president wants to pursue, and he wants to pass legislation to make that happen for all states across the country.
Just to follow up on that, he said specifically that they should take over elections in 15 states. Can you tell us what he meant by that? What 15 states he's referring to in terms of Republicans taking over elections?
Again, what I was just telling you is that with the passage of the SAVE Act, voter ID will be implemented across all 50 states. The president was referring to specific states in which we have seen a high degree of fraud. If you look at states like California, or if you look at New York City, for example, non-citizens are allowed to vote in elections in places like California and New York City. That just creates a system, an electoral system that is absolutely ripe with fraud. And you cannot deny the fact that, unfortunately, there are millions of people who have questions about that, as does the president. He wants to make it right, and the SAVE Act is a solution to doing it.
Carolyn,
Good to see you.
The January ISM manufacturing PMI hit a score of north of 52. It's the best score since August of 2022. What should that tell Americans about manufacturing activity possibly surging under this administration?
Well, the president's tariffs are working, and his economic agenda is working. When you combine tariffs and reshoring American manufacturing and investments in this country, which the president has played a huge role in directly recruiting those investments from countries and companies all over the world to the United States, you're creating jobs. We've seen construction jobs have surged in the past few months. That's because those factories are being built right here in the United States, and we're putting Americans to work. So our manufacturing sector is obviously something the president cares a lot about. That's why he's so determined and dedicated to his tariff policy, which, as you all saw yesterday, the president struck another great trade deal with India. He spoke with Prime Minister Modi directly. They share a very good relationship. India committed to not only no longer purchasing Russian oil, but buying oil from the United States, also perhaps from Venezuela too, which we know will now have a direct benefit on the United States and the American people. And in addition to that, Prime Minister Modi committed to $500 billion of investments into the United States, including for transportation, for energy, and for agricultural products as well. So this is another great trade deal, thanks to President Trump.
Why was Tulsi Gabbard involved in a domestic law enforcement search in Georgia?
Tulsi Gabbard has been tapped by the President of the United States to oversee the sanctity and the security of our American elections. She's working directly alongside the FBI director, Kash Patel. This is a coordinated whole of government effort to ensure that our elections, again, are fair and transparent moving forward. I don't see anything wrong with the president tasking a cabinet member to pursue an issue that most people want to see solved. Maybe you don't, but I know many Americans do want to make sure our elections are protected, and that's what Tulsi Gabbard is focused on doing.
Is there something specific that the president has concerns about that led him to ask the director of national intelligence to go down to Fulton County?
I just explained the president's concerns with voting in this country, and it's something that he wants to see solved for future elections, and I think that's something all Americans can get behind.
Has called President Petro a drug dealer, thug, lunatic, and President Petro has called the American army to not pay attention to President Trump. Do you think President Trump had a hope that this relationship could be fixed?
I think the president invited President Petro and accepted that offer for him to meet President Petro, and the president spoke a few weeks ago. As you know, President Petro said he'd love to come to Washington. President Trump said, sure, come. So I think that speaks for itself. And again, I'm sure the president will provide a readout of that meeting.
Sean, given the recent news and what just happened, how much does this escalate tensions ahead of these critical talks that are happening with Witkoff?
Well, look, I just spoke with Special Envoy Witkoff, and these talks, as of right now, are still scheduled. President Trump is always wanting to pursue diplomacy first, but obviously it takes two to tango. You need a willing partner to achieve diplomacy, and that's something that Special Envoy Witkoff is intent on exploring and discussing. As always, though, of course, the president has a range of options on the table with respect to Iran. As commander-in-chief, I think they learned that quite well last year with the strike in Operation Midnight Hammer, which was wildly successful and obliterated their nuclear capabilities. But those talks will continue later this week as far as we're concerned right now.
President Trump was talking yesterday about how President Putin had agreed to a week-long halt on attacks on Ukraine because of the cold weather. But today we've seen that Russia has launched some of the heaviest attacks this month. What's your reaction to that?
Yeah, I spoke with the president about it this morning, and his reaction was unfortunately unsurprised. These are two countries who have been engaged in a very brutal war for several years, a war that would have never started if the president were still in office. It started because of the weakness and incompetence of the previous president, Joe Biden, and that's why the president continues so aggressively to pursue diplomacy to end this war. That's why Special Envoy Witkoff and Jared Kushner will be in Abu Dhabi tomorrow for another round of trilateral talks. I would note the trilateral talks that took place last week or the week prior are historic by nature. Never before have all three of our countries really been able to sit down at the negotiating table to move the ball forward towards.
I'll be right back, you guys. You here? Huh? That's fine.
Until now, the state of Pennsylvania partnered with Robotics, which is an education company and a drone maker, to get coding and flying drones in the hands of these 11, 12, and 13-year-olds. They are yet learning to code, flying through those towers there, color-coded, landing on target, and even mimicking real-life search and rescue. The students taking this collective say they'll need the skills for their future. Watch.
I'm trying to get a whole other field. And they use them a lot for social rescue, finding people.
Let's say there's someone trapped in the woods. You don't know who they are. But they don't have knowledge. It takes you in to, like, you have to put your brain in which way it is. These drones are 100% made in America, but the owner of the company that put them here says getting to this point, guys, was not easy.
2021 trip prices flat. And larger drone, we came in with lights, like immediately we had this crazy notion of this is how much it be. Let's bring everything to it.
Okay, sorry about that. My sister dropped me off some stuff.
More as well.
Harvard. The president said yesterday he's now seeking $1 billion from Harvard. One, how do you arrive at that number? And two, he said he wants criminal, not just civil, charges against individuals at Harvard. Does he want to see Harvard officials arrested there criminally?
Look, I will let the president and also the Justice Department and those who will be pursuing that against Harvard speak on the specifics of that matter. But I know that the president wants to see a deal struck with Harvard that is appropriate and that ensures they are held responsible for the criminal behavior, the illegal behavior, the harassment and the targeting of Jewish American students on their campus that took place over the course of the last year, several years. This is something the administration has been working on over the course of the last year, and the president himself has been directly involved, as evidenced by that True Social statement.
What does President Trump want to see happen during this 2-week negotiation period for DHS funding? Is he confident that a deal will be reached? And what specifically is he willing to accept on some of the ICE and Border Patrol reforms that Democrats are asking for?
Well, look, President Trump will be the ultimate decider of any policy changes on anything. especially with respect to immigration enforcement. What I will tell you is the president is never going to waver in enforcing our nation's immigration laws and protecting the public safety of the American people, in his ardent support of ICE and Customs and Border Patrol, who unfortunately the Democrat Party has made a decision to demonize. I heard Senator Schumer referring to them as Donald Trump's Nazi secret police force, I believe were his words. I don't recall that same language being used when President Obama was in the White House and was deporting millions of illegal aliens from our country using this very same agency and these very same agents, who, by the way, have jobs because of the laws that were passed by Congress. So as for policy discussions that will take place, Congress will have those. The president will decide on those. You saw yesterday Secretary Noem announced that DHS agents on the ground in Minnesota will begin using and wearing body cams. That's something DHS is looking to roll out nationwide, assuming they have the funding for it. So that could be part of the discussion. I know Tom Homan has been on the ground in Minnesota. He's there again today for direct dialogue with state and local officials to move these conversations forward as well. And I think you'll be hearing more from Mr. Homan tomorrow on some of the progress that has been made. So look, we're willing obviously to have this dialogue and to talk and to listen, but we are not going to concede in enforcing our nation's immigration laws and delivering on the mandate the president was given by nearly 80 million Americans to deport illegal alien criminals from our country.
Venezuela, any preparations for a visit from Delcy Rodriguez from Venezuela, and your statements on the political prisoners situation in Venezuela?
Sure. I don't have a date for a visit at this time. I know it is something that has been discussed, but no firm plans at this point. As for the release of the political prisoners, the president and this entire White House, and I think the whole country, should be very pleased to see that. It's a commitment that Ms. Rodriguez made, and she has kept, and we expect her to continue to keep.
The administration is still expecting the ICE agents in the Super Bowl. And what are the comments from President Donald Trump regarding what Bad Bunny said during the Grammy Awards, ICE out?
I have not spoken with ICE or the Department of Homeland Security or Secretary Noem with respect to enforcement at the Super Bowl, so I don't want to speak on a topic that I don't have knowledge on. I'm sorry, but I would defer you to them. I'm sorry?
Bad Bunny saying ICE out.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's very ironic and frankly sad to see celebrities who live in gated communities with private security, with millions of dollars to spend protecting themselves, trying to just demonize law enforcement, public servants who work for the United States government to enforce our nation's laws. And you didn't hear this same type of uproar from celebrities in Hollywood when the previous administration allowed an invasion of our nation's borders and allowed innocent women and girls like Jocelyn Nungare and Laken Riley to be killed and raped and murdered at the hands of people who should have never been in our country in the first place. And now you have law enforcement who are simply trying to do their jobs to remove violent predators like those who took the lives of innocent Americans. There was no uproar from Hollywood and the elitist crowd at the Grammys then, but there is now. And I think that speaks to the unfortunate irony that we're seeing in Hollywood today. I'm sorry?
President Trump approval ratings has went up in the Hispanic community since the Maduro's capture. What do you think about that? Because the legacy media said that the Hispanic community is scared about Trump policies.
Yeah, I think it's a great point. But what the president obviously did with respect to Venezuela was a great thing for all Americans, but especially Venezuelan Americans who fled Maduro's illegitimate regime because of the horrors of communism. And I think it's a good lesson for all Americans to learn. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Caroline.
Okay, that just came out when we started it. So that was today's up report. Yeah, I got 4 more short ones we'll play and wrap things up for a few hours, and I'll be back at 6. This one is the other side, 9 minutes on this one. Then I got Kennedy on Fox this morning.
Masked men are kidnapping people off the streets. based solely on their accent or their appearance.
Democrats doubling down on their anti-ICE rhetoric as a partial government shutdown hits day 4. Many House Democrats are demanding a dramatic overhaul to DHS for any funding bill to move forward. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt is with us now for our private briefing. And Caroline, we bid good Tuesday afternoon to you. I want to get into all of the machinations on Capitol Hill in just a second, but we've got some breaking news. And the breaking news is that CENTCOM confirms that a U.S. F-35 fighter jet shot down an Iranian Shahed drone that was making an aggressive approach toward the USS Abraham Lincoln. This on the same day that a couple of Iranian gunboats were threatening a U.S.-flagged tanker in the Gulf of the Persian Gulf, threatening to board it. So what is going on, to the best of your knowledge, and what is the president going to do about what appear to be some threatening moves being made by Iran, even as Steve Witkoff prepares to meet with the foreign minister, Araghchi, either in Oman or Turkey on Friday?
Well, sure, John, and thank you for having me today. I did speak with folks over at the Pentagon this morning who said that CENTCOM acted both appropriately and necessarily to protect our U.S. personnel and equipment in the region. So CENTCOM did make the decision to shoot down that Iranian drone. It was unmanned. It was acting aggressively towards our USS Lincoln, which we know that aircraft carrier is in the region at the direction of President Trump. As for the president, he remains committed to always pursuing diplomacy first. But in order for diplomacy to work, of course, it takes two to tango. You need a willing partner to engage. And so that's something the president and Special Envoy Witkoff are exploring and discussing right now. Special Envoy Witkoff is set to have conversations with the Iranians later this week. Those are still scheduled as of right now. But of course, the president has always a range of options on the table, and that includes the use of military force. The Iranians know that better than anyone. Just look no further than the highly successful Operation Midnight Hammer, which took not just Iran, but the entire world by surprise and completely obliterated their nuclear capabilities earlier last year.
Caroline, we look forward to any follow-up on that. Meanwhile, you heard as we were leading into you this continued anti-ICE rhetoric that is coming from Democrats on the Hill. Democrats claiming that DHS is the greatest threat to American security. You heard from one of them just a moment ago. This is the Senate Minority Leader, Chuck Schumer, on the Senate floor, Caroline, on Speaker Johnson being pro-secret police. We'll get your reaction. Watch.
Every citizen knows when they meet a police officer or sheriff, their ID is clear on them. That's always been the accountability that we've had for decades and decades. And Noam thinks, and some people think, like Speaker Johnson thinks, we shouldn't do it. Why is Johnson pro-secret police? It's absurd for the Speaker and others like him to argue that masked ICE agents should get special treatment.
Caroline, what's the White House response to that?
I think it's incredibly irresponsible for elected Democrats to refer to ICE agents and Border Patrol agents who have their jobs, by the way, because of the laws that were enacted and passed by the United States Congress. These are legitimate law enforcement organizations that rest within the Department of Homeland Security that have been enforcing our nation's border and our nation's immigration laws for years. I didn't hear Chuck Schumer or Democrats speaking that way of ICE agents under President Barack Obama, who deported hundreds of thousands of criminal illegal aliens from our country. That's all President Trump, Secretary Noem, and this entire administration are seeking to do. Targeted law enforcement operations of illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws, especially those who have committed heinous acts of violence against the American people. And it is a mandate that the president was elected upon to secure our homeland and to carry out these deportations. And it's something he will never waver in his commitment in, because why? A country without borders, a country without laws will cease to be a country at all. Now, there can be policy discussions and debates about how those tactics are enforced. And I know Congress will be having those discussions in the coming days. But as far as the underlying principle of enforcing our nation's laws and protecting our border, that is something this president will never waver on, because he knows it's what the American people people elected him to do.
Barack Obama actually deported millions of illegal
That's right.
aliens. I was covering that back in 2013,
Yes, you were.
2014. And I do not remember,
three
to
minutes.
the best of my knowledge, protests erupting across
The
America
last
on the
one
streets denouncing what he was
someone's
doing.
gonna do, the Kennedy
So the funding
one.
bill is making its
5
way through
minutes.
Congress.
Fox.
A number of Republican members of the House insisting that the SAVE Act, which is the Voter Identification Act, be attached to the funding bill. But the president nixed that idea in a Truth Social post. He said in part, quote, "We need to get the government open, and I hope all Republicans and Democrats will join me in supporting this bill and send it to my desk without delay. There can be no changes at this time." A number of Republicans were not happy about that. The president convinced them otherwise. But why didn't the president want that in this funding bill?
The president wants the government to be open, John. He wants federal workers to be paid. He wants our economy to continue to move in the robust way that it is because of his pro-growth economic policies. And a shutdown will only hurt our economy, ultimately will only hurt the American people. We saw that in the last shutdown fight. Nobody wins, everybody loses. The president wants our country to win. He wants the government to remain open, and that is going to happen. We have a very high degree of confidence. We're extremely optimistic. The government is going to reopen, that all Republicans are going to stick together and vote accordingly. And that bill to reopen the government will be right here at the White House, we hope in just a few short hours, to the president's desk for signature.
Caroline, could you also give us a few more details on this phone call with Prime Minister Modi of India? A trade deal has been reached, says President Trump. Both of them are saying, according to Modi, he's delighted with the announced tariff reduction on India. President Trump touting that India stop buying Russian oil. President Trump made an announcement that he believes this could end the war in Ukraine. Can you offer our audience more details on what has been achieved there?
Sure. Well, I have the great honor and pleasure of seeing President Trump interact with leaders all around the world. When it comes to Prime Minister Modi, I know he particularly enjoys their relationship and has a deep respect for the Prime Minister and for his country of India. They had a great call. It was very productive yesterday, and they struck a deal in which India has agreed to stop purchasing Russian oil, to buy more American oil from the United States of America, and potentially from Venezuela too. As you know, the president and his national security team are now dictating the commerce of Venezuela and those oil sales. So this directly benefits the American people as well. And in addition, India has agreed to invest more in the United States because of President Trump's call to action on that phone call yesterday. Prime Minister Modi committed to $500 billion of purchases of U.S. energy, transportation, agricultural products. And the U.S. tariff on India will now be at 18%, but American exports to India will face a tariff of 0%. So this is a great deal and a huge win for American workers, businesses, and consumers alike.
Now, you mentioned Venezuela a second ago, Venezuelan oil, which brings me to this morning's meeting between the president and Colombian President Gustavo Petro, who was really talking tough when Maduro was still in power, but has since had a change of heart, shall we say, since Maduro was popped. How did that meeting go today?
Well, the meeting is still ongoing, or at least it was when I walked out of the West Wing just moments ago. Oh, well, there you go. That's news to me. I'll go check in with the president to see how it's going. But I did speak with the president before he headed into the meeting. He had a very positive headspace. Again, President Trump always wants to pursue diplomacy first, and that's what you are seeing on display here at the White House today.
All right, Caroline, really appreciate the private briefing.
Okay, press secretary on Fox. That was good. So I got to play another video. They got an update on Savannah's mom. Very sad story. So I'm going to play that one. Then I'll play Kennedy to finish off. This I just found.
Report, with the local sheriff confirming that authorities fear a possible kidnapping or abduction and becoming emotional in an interview while talking about the case.
Do you believe you are still looking for Nancy Guthrie alive at this point?
I we're just not going to give up hope. We hope she's out there somewhere.
So you still believe this is an active rescue mission at this point?
We hope so.
Law enforcement sources told the Los Angeles Times that the blood was found alongside signs of forced entry in her home, although it was not immediately confirmed whose blood it was. According to authorities, a relative made a 911 call around noon on February 1st to report Nancy Guthrie was missing after she failed to show up for a church service. She was last seen returning from dinner at her home in Catalina Foothills, north of Tucson, at around 9:30 p.m. on January 31st, authorities said. At this point, investigators believe she was taken from the home against her will, possibly in the middle of the night, Pima County Sheriff's Department spokesperson Kevin Adger confirmed to the LA paper. The elder Guthrie was not known to have illnesses such as dementia or Alzheimer's and was of good sound mind. However, she was described as being in not of good physical health. She cannot walk more than 50 yards on her own and is reliant on life-saving medication, a lack of which for 24 hours could prove fatal, making the hunt a race against time. On Monday, February 2nd, authorities confirmed the case was officially being investigated as a crime.
It is a crime scene. We know that. She is very limited in her mobility, right? We know she didn't just walk out of there. That we know. There are other things at the scene that indicate there was she did not leave on her own. We know that.
Her daughter, Today anchor Savannah Guthrie, skipped the February 2nd Monday episode of the NBC Morning Talk Show. However, she shared a statement that was aired regarding her mom being missing.
On behalf of our family, I want to thank everyone for the thoughts, prayers, and messages of support. Right now, our focus remains on the safe return of our dear mom.
The feds have since been looped in on the search, NBC crime reporter Tom Winter told the Today Show.
They were able to get out helicopters last night to use infrared cameras. They've got drones up. They've enlisted the help of the Customs and Border Protection, obviously not too far from the border there in Mexico. They have some special resources. The FBI is also aware of this case as well.
Nancy has made various guest appearances on Today over the years since Savannah joined the show in 2011.
She loves us, her family, fiercely, and her selflessness and sacrifice for us, her steadfastness and her unmovable confidence is the reason any of us grew up to do anything.
Okay, that's a sad update there. I'm going to close it out with Kennedy, 5 minutes. And I'll be back at 6.
The way you see an idea in your mind.
All right, from the deep freeze to the funding freeze on Capitol Hill. It's day 3 of the partial government shutdown. The main sticking point, a funding fight over DHS. Right now, the House Rules Committee is meeting to figure out the next steps to end the deadlock. Speaker Johnson is confident it will get done by tomorrow, but he could face problems within his own party. Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna wants the SAVE Act included. That would require people to show ID when they vote. And for perspective, you need ID to buy alcohol, open a bank account, get a car, fly on a plane, purchase a gun. It seems like voting would be logical to add to that list. But will it be part of this funding deal? Joining us now, Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy. Senator, good to see you. That seems common sense, but it has for a long time. That hasn't meant that it will pass. Voter ID. Will it be part of this funding bill?
Well, I mean, right now we find ourselves in the posture, as you know, Will, of having 5 appropriation bills and a continuing resolution to keep the Department of Homeland Security open. The Senate's already passed it. If the House doesn't pass it, a big portion of the federal government will be shut down. And that, in my judgment, would be top of the list, king of the hill, number 1 stupid. And it would be the Republicans' fault. Not only would it be bad policy, I support the SAVE Act, but if you add it on to the bill, and then the legislation, all of it has to come back to the Senate, and it doesn't pass the Senate, then we would have to go into a government shutdown, and Republicans would be blamed. Senator Thune has already promised us that he would bring up the SAVE bill separately. And that just seems to me to be the smart way to go.
If it came up separately, this has been a thing that's been lingering for a while, Senator. Could it pass a Republican House and a Republican Senate?
I think that most Republicans would vote for it. I would. Now, we've got a few free-range chickens on the Republican side. We may have to gather them up. The question will be which, if any, Democrats would vote for. I think we'd have to have some work to do there, but it's not insurmountable.
You had, I'm going to ask you a serious question off something that I don't know how serious you were being. You paid a compliment to Senator John Fetterman. You talked about his attire. And by the way, I have a whole host of new compliments for Senator Fetterman. Despite our many disagreements, I continue to find him interesting and independent. But you had something to say about his attire. You said he's basically the Hills Hollywood. He is Adam Sandler. Here's my serious question to you about it. Whenever I talk about Fetterman, and if I pay him a compliment like I just did with you, there are people who say to me, have some respect, Senator. Dress up. It is a big job in Washington, D.C.
It doesn't bother me. Look, I like John Fetterman. I like him a lot. We don't vote together very often, but I really like him. Now, some may consider that a questionable life choice, but I don't. I think the guy's a total banger. He's a maverick. He follows the rules on the Senate floor. And I really like him. And what I like about John is he plays outside the pocket. He just doesn't give a damn who's mad at him. If you ask him, Fetterman, how do you sleep at night knowing that there are people out there that hate you? He's likely to say something like, with the fan on. He just doesn't care. And I find that refreshing.
I
He's
will
a total
say,
banger.
A total banger. That's a new phrase for me, Senator. We're going to have to get you on the Will King Country at a longer episode to figure out exactly what that Louisiana term means. I'm taking it. I'm reading that it is a compliment. I really am. I will say, I agree with you. I would much rather a maverick who dresses like Adam Sandler than an impeccable conformist. I would much rather Adam Sandler in the Senate and in the mind than a partisan conformist, but with a nice suit. If that's a banger, I'm with you, Senator. He's a banger.
That's a banger, man. You nailed it.
Right,
you're just a good old Texas boy, Will.
Thank you so much, Senator. It's always good to see you. Appreciate it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey.
Okay, that's the way to end the show with that one. Okay, that's the first show with a lot of good stuff on show number 1. And thanks, Flying Eagle, for coming member with their wrenches. Whatever you can. Carol, Tim, Lucy, everybody's at work listening. Hopefully Kay will be back tonight. So have a good afternoon, and we'll see you back after dinner time, 6 o'clock news time. Stay safe, God bless. Remember, please hit the like. Make sure you guys go to the description, please, and sub to the backup channels. Thank you, and God bless. Stay safe, stay strong, keep the faith, never give up. Signing off for till 6 o'clock tonight. Chico and Dude. See you guys soon.